So some of the things and dynamics I think that can be very unhelpful to both the teacher, the aide, and the student in the classroom is when we get into a power imbalance or a control kind of world where we're thinking that the teacher's thinking that what he or she needs to do is to manage and control the situation and to not give in to the child. And the giving in concept is actually a very, very, very poor model of behaviour, because what we need to be doing is looking at what's happening for that child, understanding what the child is trying to tell us through their behaviour, and then find the antidote to that. One, work out what is it they're trying to say and deliver that if at all possible. And in a more proactive system where we're actively working on trying to help that child never have an outburst, then you can be forgiven for giving into the child as a reactive strategy when they occur, because hopefully they wouldn't be happening very often. Now, this is not about not maintaining rigour in your class. It's not about maintaining a level of control which every teacher needs to have. It's actually about paying attention to the individual needs of your students. And actually, it's proper behavioural theory. I think it's natural for human beings to think that punishment is the answer to behaviour, poor behaviour, or challenging behaviour. And I think that's not restricted to worlds where people with disability are. I think that we're like that everywhere, and we haven't really worked out as a community or a culture what we think about punishment. We're pretty sure that people should be getting it. And the truth is that punishment, like corporal punishment, smacking, hitting, yelling, all those things, you can get fairly effective control pretty quickly if you use that. But we are so adaptive as human beings that the moment you start to use that, you're going to have to get louder, harder, more forceful. So it's actually a very, very poor model of how to really help people manage differently and better. And so it's a much better system to work proactively with that child to help that person manage things better, to get their needs met, to not be forced into a situation where they're in that behavioural shout, so that they don't ever have to have that outburst. And may I say that I think when people are engaging in behaviour, if the people around them, all the stakeholders, are doing the right thing, that behaviour should abate. It should not be continuing at that level of intensity if people are really paying attention and trying to manage that more effectively. And so I think one of the worst things in the world that can happen is a child gets sent home or a child gets sent to the principal's office, because where the behaviour is occurring is where this behaviour needs to be dealt with. And I don't mean that in a punishing way, because I think sometimes leaving the classroom is not punishment at all. But I think the dilemma for teachers is that there's a disruption and they're trying to get the classroom back into control in the right way, not necessarily being overly controlling. And so the dilemma is how to manage those situations better. My frustration is that actually if we were more proactive, we would have less outbursts and would not need to manage things so much. One of the negative things I think that happens from this issue of adults being attached to children is that there is a negative effect both internally for the child who's being attached to, where that child feels like they're less or different to the other children, but then there's a real negative effect on the perception of other kids have of that child. And that is actually at the heart, I think, of where we start to create these concepts of difference, which is the one thing in the world we don't want to do in inclusive settings. What we want to do is to create like this celebration of everybody can be different, but we don't just create differences for some people and not others. So I think that's a very negative effect from the way we do it now. I'm not saying we don't need to have extra people in the classroom, but the way we do it now.